The Malaysian capital is preparing to host world leaders, including Donald Trump and Li Qiang, at this weekend's ASEAN summit. That's when the bloc will officially induct Timor-Leste as its newest member. But besides expansion, ASEAN will be seeking to resolve other challenges on areas ranging from security to trade, as members grapple with fallout from Washington's global trade offensive. Our chair Malaysia playing mediator to a deadly border dispute between bloc members Thailand and Cambodia. Of course, the underlying roots of that conflict still unresolved, even as July's ceasefire after days of fighting appears to be holding. ASEAN also looking to push the Myanmar military government to implement its peace plan, as the army prepares to hold an election at the end of the year that critics have already slammed as a sham. Where the ASEAN summit is being held, hundreds of protesters taking to the streets of Kuala Lumpur to oppose Donald Trump's presence for the summit this year. The stop is the US leader's first in an Asia-wide tour, with anticipation running higher for a potential meeting between Donald Trump and Xi Jinping in South Korea next week. CNA senior correspondents Melissa Goh and Leong joined us live from the summit venue in Kuala Lumpur. Melissa, let's start with you. ASEAN, one way it has met uncertainty externally is to speed up integration within the bloc, both on trade as well as security. What can the bloc hope to achieve on integration at this summit?
Well, it's touted the biggest and the most high-profile to date because more than 30 heads of states and governments will be converging here at the Kuala Lumpur Convention Centre, right below this iconic Twin Towers, so beautiful, lit up in national flag colours. Now, some, in fact, have already arrived, including President of Brazil, Lula da Silva, and South African President Ramaphosa, as well as Timor-Leste Prime Minister Xanana Gusmao. Now, Timor-Leste will formally join ASEAN as the 11th member this weekend. There's a ceremony lined up to mark the occasion with the theme this year, sustainability and inclusivity. Lots to expect in terms of speeding up economic integration for the grouping to buffer against the geo-economic uncertainties and the supply chain disruptions following the sweeping US import tariffs. Now, ASEAN member countries are slapped with general tariffs between 10 and 40%. Now, Malaysia, along with Cambodia, Thailand, Indonesia and the Philippines are fixed at 19% the tariff rates. Now, Malaysia will be finalizing the tariff agreements in time for signing when US President Donald Trump arrives on Sunday. Now, US is the largest consumer market for ASEAN, also the biggest investor here. While President Trump is bent on correcting the trade imbalances and moving the supply chain back to the United States, ASEAN is not doing nothing. It's doubling down on economic integration. At least 2 agreements we know of will be signed by the leaders on Sunday to expand intra-ASEAN trade by further streamlining the custom clearance procedures and also enhancing the existing ASEAN FTA with China. Now, many countries, are really hoping that China can buy more because ASEAN trade deficit with China is huge at over $150 billion US. Now, Malaysia Trade Minister Zafrul Aziz also spoke about the semiconductor supply chain, as well as rare earth ecosystem, how countries in Southeast Asia can work together to enhance their bargaining power against the major powers. Let's have a listen what Zafrul said earlier.
Countries like Malaysia, and I'm sure a few other countries, as you know, have, for example, banned export of rare earth. And as we want to develop our downstream and midstream activities. So this is going to be important for ASEAN member states to work together and see how ASEAN collectively as a bloc with our natural resources can leverage when we discuss on other things.
Melissa, a great deal of emphasis on Donald Trump turning up at its ASEAN summit, the first attendance since 2017. But of course, the US is a significant dialogue partner of ASEAN. Melissa, just very quickly picking up, in case you did not hear that question, was Donald Trump turning up? The last time you said at ASEAN Summit was in 2017, and we have been giving a lot of emphasis on his attending this particular summit. How significant would Mr. Trump's presence be at this event? Melissa. All right, I'm afraid we might have lost that line to Melissa. Let's get to you next then, Waikit. We're hearing, Melissa, there why ASEAN needs to work together within the bloc as a defense against external factors, uncertainties that are outside of ASEAN's control. Or you'll be looking at ASEAN Foreign Ministers meeting today on an internal crisis within ASEAN, which is, of course, Myanmar, which you have been keeping an eye on for years now. What emerged from this meeting? All right, if we seem to have difficulties with Waikit as well. Waikit, very... all right, we will bring Waikit and Melissa back if we can later on this bulletin. For now, let's move on. CNA's senior correspondent Melissa Go there, and Waikit, who was unable to hear the line, they are covering this event for CNA, of course, the summit starting from Sunday of this weekend.